Welcome, you fleshy flotsam washed ashore with the rest of us. Welcome to Cyberphile. If you're coming from Reddit, you probably know me as Asuko13. I've made numerous guides, FAQs, and various other things for the Salt and Sanctuary subreddit to help out newbies on their first journey through Salt and Sanctuary. But my claim to fame, and probably the reason why you're here, is my 86-page lore synopsis, the Drowned Tome. After many people asking, wanting, waiting, and waiting, here I am, nearly a year later, creating From the Depths, an obvious play on the ever-popular epic name bros From the Dark. What From the Depths is a full Let's Play of Salt and Sanctuary, enhanced with lore, notes, and things that I've compiled, most of which is included in the Drowned Tome. In fact, if you want to read the Drowned Tome so you can follow along, check the link in the description below. Now, I'm not the greatest entertainer, but most of what I say here is unscripted, off-the-cuff dialogue. That said, I do plan to make another series, completely scripted, talking specifically about just one boss, location, or something of that sort. That said, I do have a clipboard here, and I've left myself some notes to make sure I don't forget about what to talk about each episode. Finally, what I'm going to reiterate is pretty much exactly what I said in the preface of the Drowned Tome. Salt and Sanctuary is your story. I can provide information up and down, but your character is your character, and your story is your story. There are a number of loose ends in Salt and Sanctuary, and I truly believe that this is no accident. Like the games that surely inspired it, Salt and Sanctuary is deliberately vague in the story and main character's quest, but rock solid in the world development, so that the player is free to speculate about much of the game, like I have. Now, these videos are approximately 80% fact, collected from item descriptions, NPC dialogue, and stories from the Tree of Skill nodes, which I do plan on recording and uploading as well as 20% speculation from the information given and my attempts at piecing said information together. My assumptions may not be correct, but they give you a starting point to start devising your own theories and ideas on what goes on in the story and backstory. Listen for words like probably and the tone of my voice to denote fact from conjecture. Lastly, I highly recommend that you beat the game at least once before watching this series, so you have a basic grasp on the world and story. That said, I'll do my damnedest to fill you in the best I can. Similarly, there will obviously be heavy spoilers, but I'll try to talk about certain events and information sort of as it's presented to the player. Now, without further ado, this is my second tribute to Ska Studios and players of Salt and Sanctuary everywhere. I present to you From the Depths. First of all, before I get into the gameplay, and while I build my character, I want to talk about the world of Salt and Sanctuary. The kingdom, which is unnamed by the way, is made up of 4 continents and 14 nations. Within these nations, there are a number of towns, cities, and villages. I'm going to quickly give you a little bit of information on each continent and its major locations, as even though we never step foot on the kingdom presented here on the map, it plays a huge role in the story of Salt and Sanctuary. I'm just going to start with the Eastern Continent and work my way clockwise, giving you a little taste now and the juicy details later. So, let's start with the Eastern Continent. The Eastern Continent contains 4 nations. You have Ascaria, Livin, Citadel, and Jonas's Landing. The Eastern Continent, geographically known for its large forests, has a large river that runs through it, separating Ascaria in the south from Livin and Citadel in the north. Jonas's Landing has its own island in the extreme south. Ascaria lies fairly central in the Eastern Continent, just a bit off to the west. Ascaria is a huge nation, and perhaps the most powerful nation in the entire kingdom, with a huge emphasis on military power and the power of the Ascarian crown. Ascaria is essentially the capital of the Eastern Continent. Ascaria has been at war with Tristan many times, and often a brief peace treaty can be made between the 2 nations with a marriage alliance. The official creed of Ascaria is the 3, but I'll talk more about the 3 later on. Ascaria has a powerful weapon and armor making industry that flourishes, able to fashion entirely new styles of weapons. Since Ascaria is constantly warring, commerce and industry, especially blacksmithing, are often booming. Though raiders can commonly be found on the paths to and from Ascaria, they have been known to work as sellswords for the right price. The Ascarian army have many different regiments, such as the Cold Weather Regiment, the Cocytus Cohort, of which there's almost no more information on, the elite Night Raiders, which I'll talk about very briefly, and the most disturbing, yet the most loyal and interesting, the Blue Guard, which I'll talk about at length later on. Livin lies north of Iscaria, in the coldest part of the eastern continent. Livin is equally split between proper towns, villages, and tribes of the forest-dwelling Vilehawks, primarily to the east of Livin, and I'll talk more about them later. Livin was founded by Gondra the Warrior, who wielded something called the Black Widow Greatsword, which was eventually passed down to every ruler of Livin, including Queen Linnea, who we'll talk about at length later on. Remember that sword. Remember that name. Livin seems to have enough power to avoid being completely absorbed by Iscaria and its politics. Deep in the Pitchwoods to the east of Livin lies the Citadel, haven of the Keepers of Fire and Sky, a magician collective that we'll talk about at length later on. All you need to know is that the Citadel is a huge tower in the woods filled with magicians. Finally, and I find this interesting, there's almost no information whatsoever about Jonas's Landing. Don't know what that is, what it's like, who Jonas was, simply that that was his name.
My name is Jonas. I'm carrying.
But I digress. Next, the Southern Continent. The Southern Continent also contains 4 nations: Colchis, Coast Rock, Jindarin, and Karhi. The Southern Continent is known for its deserts in the south, but it's rocky and poor soil in the north. As trees are fairly uncommon, but mines plentiful in the Southern Continent, gold and steel is often used as a wood substitute. Both Karhi and Jindarin have their own islands, Karhi to the west and Jindarin to the south. But first, let's talk Colchis. Fairly central in the Southern Continent lies Colchis. Colchis is a desert nation most well known for 2 main structures: a huge castle called Cloudin Cass, and a giant ancient Aztec, Mayan, Incan hybrid temple called the Ziggurat of Dust. I'll talk much more about both of those locations later. Colchis seems to be on pretty good terms with the major nations on the other continents, and is essentially the capital of the Southern Continent. Far south on a remote island of the Southern Continent lies Jindarin. Like Jonas's Landing, there's almost no information on Jindarin, as it's a forbidden nation. Travelers rarely go, but terrifying and widespread rumors give it a bad reputation. Natives of Jindarin have black skin, strange markings, large underteeth with an underbite, and a red sclera. What they look like probably doesn't help those bad rumors. Coast Rock lies just north of Colchis, right on the sea. The land in Coast Rock is cold, rocky, poor for agriculture, and has few trees, but is rich in minerals. Coast Rock's economy thrives on these minerals, as well as ocean byproducts, such as fish, shells, and other undersea goodies. In fact, the Tetrodan tribe actually uses deep-sea creatures as weaponry, crafting weapons such as the Cephalopounder and Truncheon from a local species of squid and sea urchin respectively. Coast Rock is mostly fishing villages removed from civilization, but Coast Rock has a very powerful military known as the Coast Rock Federation. Their mineral-rich rocks make for powerful arms and armor. Karhi lies on the western island of the southern continent, and the fact that it's an island nation is not the only similarity it pulls from Japanese culture. Karhi seems to be nearly a parallel to feudal Japan, and explains why there are many weapons and armor of seemingly Japanese origin. Karhi's land makeup is mostly swamps. Karhi has monks, celebrates festivals wearing the masks of demons, and embraces color in their festivities. It's likely that Karhi has a number of assassins, probably ninja-like. Karhi blacksmiths deal in fine, folded steel to create razor-sharp blades used in their weaponry. See, blacksmiths had to quickly become skilled at their craft, making the best out of the inferior quality of steel ore that's found in Karhi. So, generally, when you think of Karhi, just think of Japan. The western continent contains 3 nations: Cadania, Gulchmire, and Tristan. The western continent is known for its deadly swamps and forests. Cadania and Gulchmire lie on the far west portion of the western continent, and are known to have the most toxic swamps in the kingdom. In Cadanian swamps, the rare and important Cadania rogiella, or red grass, grows, where most of the healing items in the kingdom get their healing properties. Because red grass is so rare, it has been crossbred with many other plants to make it more accessible. All of the healing items that I'll be using throughout the playthrough are derived in some way from the Cadania rogiella. Likewise, the white azemia is native to Cadania, and is the prime source of bluegrass, the ingredient used in most invigorating potions for magic users. On the other hand, the Cadanian tarvine also grows in these swamps, the sap of which is extracted as the kingdom's most widespread poison, known as pest mud. Cadanian swamps are very poisonous and very dangerous, and the red grass grows only in the most dangerous and poisonous corners of the swamp. Cadania is an underdeveloped nation, however, consisting of mostly headhunting swamp tribes, not too dissimilar from the Vilehawks in Livin. Cadania has many valuable ores, and Markdor and Coast Rock negotiate for access to their mines. That said, iron is very rare, and leatherworking tends to prevail over blacksmithing as the prime craft of Cadania, probably due to the fact that they're less developed than other nations. In the past, Cadania has tried and failed miserably to invade the much more advanced Ascaria. There's very little information on Gulchmire, so all we really know is that they're a bloodthirsty kind of lizard people. That's all I got for now. Tristan lies central in the western continent. The Tristini have pale skin, a longer jaw, and seem to have this weird marking that looks kind of like a girl's eyeshadow at the end of the Notebook. Tristan has many powerful swordsmen who excel at swordplay and stealth. They're Ascaria's prime rival, and they are almost constantly at war with each other. Tristan has many forests, and the Tristini are often hated by other nations for some reason. Perhaps it's because of their eerie look and rumors of dark magic, but they're a proud nation protected by the Tristini Royal Guard. Tristini military is a force to be reckoned with, as they can tow with Ascaria at any time. They're essentially the capital of the western continent. In the woods of Tristan, many small communities reside, often dabbling with harmless elemental magic. This is a huge plot point that I'll get into much later. Finally, we make our way to the northern continent, which contains 3 nations: Markdor, Dor Isle, and Tanabur. The northern continent is known for its mountainous regions, brutal cold, and valuable mines. The continent is split into 2 halves by a river, with Markdor on one side and Tanabur on the other. Dor Isle is a small island in the southeast. Markdor lies in the northern mountains of the northern continent. Dorians seem to be capable blacksmiths, craftsmen, and miners, mining shockstone, goldenstone, lurite crystal, and other valuable jewels from the mountains. They've come up with very powerful and interesting weapons with the help of the plentiful and practically magical ore that's mined in the mountains. Women's role in Markdor is also much more self-reliant than anywhere else in the kingdom. Instead of learning etiquette and how to bow and treat nobles properly, women are raised to be skilled at martial arts, dueling, and marksmanship. Though Markdor has a powerful military, they have had some trouble dealing with bandits in the past, the Grey Raiders, who often attacked caravans and merchants. The Grey Raiders managed to thwart multiple attempts to be stopped by the Dorian military. The High Council of Markdor placed a bounty on their heads that Ascarian mercenaries eventually took care of. Thanks to that, Markdor seems to be on pretty good terms with Ascaria, and the major nations on other continents in general. Markdor is by far the most prominent location on the northern continent. Dor Isle and Tanabur get sort of overshadowed by the superpower that is Markdor. Interestingly enough though, Dor Isle on the southeastern island of the northern continent is actually pretty important to Markdor. You see, dragons once roamed the mountains of Markdor, and mercenaries from Dor Isle were able to drive the worms from the mountains of Markdor. Dor Isle also has a number of bustling trade cities, ideal for the craftsmen and blacksmiths of Markdor to peddle their wares. Tanabur, on the other hand, is not so fortunate. Due to the need for workers in the mines of Markdor, Dorian forces have occupied Tanabur, enslaving as many as they need. Dorian forces, including the deadly Dread Horsemen, patrol the poor streets of Tanabur, stomping out any rebels who try to break free of their Dorian masters, either by rebellion or running away. Anyone who did manage to escape before being enslaved or stomped out are no longer in good shape, scattered around the northern continent. The only thing Tanabur really has going for them is their special fire potion, the Burian Fire Pot, and their deadly lowland mercenaries, who wield the Lowlander's Great Knife. Whew. That's a lot of information, and that's not even everything I have to say about these lands. Go figure, the entire first episode of From the Depths has practically no gameplay. That said, if you enjoyed this information and want more, look forward to the next episode of From the Depths, where we actually play the game. Stay salty, friends. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more Cyberphile content, and if you liked this video, show me with that little thumbs up button. If you liked this video, you might like one of my other videos. You can click right on the boxes to jump to them. Cyberphile, offline.